Barbenheimer happened a few weeks ago. I don't need to tell you about it, you already know about that whole thing. But this isn't the first time that happened. Back in 2008, when Christopher Nolan released The Dark Knight, another movie catering towards a very different audience came out on the same day called Mamma Mia. Both of these movies were box office hits. Opposite to Barbenheimer, this time The Dark Knight entered into the $1 billion club and Mamma Mia grossed around $600 million. So I decided to join in on the trend 15 years later and do my own double feature of these two movies. So this is my double review of The Dark Knight and Mamma Mia. I started my double feature with The Dark Knight. I think that just about everything that could be said has been said about The Dark Knight, but I'll try to find a new way to talk about this movie. I love this movie, and what's crazy is that I've seen this movie far more than 10 times. I could quote a large portion of this movie, and I mean this genuinely, but whenever I rewatch it, I still get tense even though I know exactly what's gonna happen. The first 20 minutes of this movie set it up perfectly. We get an action set piece in the bank robbery to draw us in, and it perfectly establishes that the Joker is a master planner and doesn't care about human life. We see that criminals are still a thing, but have decreased a lot since the events of Batman Begins. Batman is still an amazing fighter, Harvey Dent is introduced, and we see that he shows interest in Rachel and can easily win court cases. Bruce is getting a little tired from being Batman, and the bank is dealing with problems from the mob. All of this is established in the first 20 minutes, which perfectly draws you in. And then from there, we get the scene of the Joker meeting the mob, and each scene gets more and more tense. And that's something that I love about this movie. The tension very gradually builds. You can see the Joker's chaos slowly ensuing, but you don't really notice it until at some point in the movie you look back and realize how out of control things are now compared to about 30 minutes ago. And even though the tension builds very slowly, and this movie is 2.5 hours, it moves very quickly and every scene feels significant. Another thing that I love about this movie is Nolan's obsession with time. It's not nearly as recognizable in this film as it is in, say, Memento or Dunkirk, but there's still very effective usage of it on display. In this movie, Nolan will do this thing where he has a scene that's happening, and there will be around 3 or 4 subplots in there. Take for example the hospital scene. In this scene, the Joker says that he'll blow up a hospital if this guy isn't dead in an hour. So in this one scene, we have the police trying to empty the hospitals, Gordon trying to get this guy safe, Bruce feeding information to Gordon, and the Joker manipulating Harvey. By doing this, you're able to pack a lot more in while spreading the time out. They're also edited in the most gripping way possible. Whenever something exciting happens, it instantly switches to another subplot, keeping you on edge, always want to know what happens next. And that process is repeated throughout the whole movie. Then there's Two-Face. I know a lot of people hate him in this movie, but he's genuinely one of my favorite parts of the film. He goes to show how strong of a hero Batman really is. At the beginning of the film, he is seen as someone who even Bruce sees as nobler than he. But when the Joker kills Rachel, Bruce stands firm, but Harvey goes mad. It's an interesting story on its own, but more importantly, it shows how strong of a hero Batman really is. Then there's the meat of the movie, Batman and the Joker. The Joker is easily the most talked about part of this movie, and I honestly think that's kind of a disservice to the film, because this is a Batman film. Batman and the Joker are equally amazing to me in this movie. Batman is pushed harder in this movie more than he has in any other Batman movie. I'm not talking physically. I mean, he's even pushed harder physically in the next movie than he is in this one, but his morals are questioned in this movie. There's a point in the film when Bruce is fully ready to reveal to everyone that he's Batman so that the Joker will stop killing people. And if Harvey wouldn't have stopped him, he would have been doing what the Joker told him to do. And as a result of the Joker spreading chaos, he loses the person that he loves, and the man who he thought could take up his mantle turns crazy. You also see Batman growing weary throughout the film, and yet he stands strong and is able to stop the Joker. And at the end, he gets no credit for the amazing feat that he just pulled off. And none of that would have happened if it weren't for the Joker. That's why I love the Joker. Lots of people just say that he's a great villain because Heath Ledger does a really good job or whatever. And while I think that he's a highlight of the film, I love what they did with him because of the effect that he has on Batman and everyone else in Gotham. I mean, I also feel like it's required that I have to mention that Heath Ledger is absolutely amazing, because he obviously is. Something that I love about the Joker is that he has no backstory, no motivation other than just to spread chaos. And when that's all that we're given, the movie doesn't have to spend any time trying to give us a tragic backstory so that we can sympathize with him. Another thing I love about him is that he's not a very big physical threat. He rarely gets in any fights. He just simply outsmarts everyone, and that's way more compelling to me than a big physical threat. I love the Joker, not because he's a complex character on his own, but because of the effect that he has on Batman and everyone else in Gotham. You can just see the toll that he spreads on Gotham. There's also so many what-if scenarios that he puts people in that really get you thinking about what you would do. Would you kill a well-known and respected businessman, or let a hospital blow up? If you were an innocent civilian, would you be part of killing a ferry full of prisoners, or would you let yourself get blown up? In these scenes, even after I've seen them too many times to count, they still get me on the edge of my seat every time. Honestly, after all that, I don't think I've done this movie justice. It's a movie you really gotta see for yourself, and I'd even say it's perfect besides just a few little bugs. This movie truly is a masterpiece and should be held on the highest regard. This movie for me gets a 10 out of 10. Alright, let's go on to Mamma Mia now. This was a first time watch for me, and I didn't like it. I'm just gonna say it, I don't like chick flicks. They are not for me. There are the occasional chick flicks that I find annoying but charming at their core, but nah, this one's just annoying. To start, this movie is just too goofy for me. I like occasional goofy movies, but this is just too far. Like many chick flicks, this one just has uncomfortable scenarios that I don't like watching. Characters get in situations that are basically worst case scenario. I know that works for a lot of people, but for me, there's just something about these situations that the characters get in that I just don't want to see. Like this girl literally invites her mom's former boyfriends to her wedding without telling her. And her mom figures out about it and it ruins her whole week until the end because it's gotta end on a happy note. Also, that ending was horrible. The main girl is having her wedding, then she basically says to her fiance, let's just not get married yet. And then Pierce Brosnan out of nowhere proposes to her mom. And also, why was it Pierce Brosnan that proposed? Maybe I'm missing something, but it seems like the mom has the same amount of chemistry with the other two dudes than she does with Pierce Brosnan, other than maybe one musical scene. Also, I need to mention the music. It's horrible. You know, I've really turned a corner with musicals. Over the past 2 or so years, I've gone from hating musicals to feeling really passionate about a few. The musicals that I love, however, only have songs when something significant happens to one of the main characters, and those songs are used to romanticize the feelings of them. In this movie, they'll just have a song every 5 or 10 minutes whether it needs to be there or not. However, I do have a few positives about this movie. First off, Pierce Brosnan and Stellan Skarsgård are great in this movie. They're basically playing themselves, and I think it works perfectly. Also, while I found a lot of this stuff in this movie uncomfortable, I found the main mystery to be kind of fun. This girl wants to find out which of these 3 dudes is her dad, but she doesn't want her mom to know that she invited them. But her mom figures out that they came, but she doesn't know that her daughter was the one that invited them. And she also doesn't know which one of them is her daughter's dad. They're actually able to have a lot of fun with this premise. Overall, I didn't like this movie. I'm not saying this is a bad movie, and if you like chick flicks, it'll probably work for you, but it just didn't for me. So I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 10. With how much money events like Barbenheimer make, you can already see stuff like this trying to happen again with things like Saw Patrol. Lots of people have said this already, and I completely agree with it, but these things just have to happen naturally. It can't originate from the studios, it has to happen organically. I don't think that The Dark Knight and Mamma Mia are as big of a contrast as Oppenheimer and Barbie. Oppenheimer is a 3-hour, dark, and depressing biopic drama, whereas Barbie is a movie based off a famous IP and doesn't take much seriously. Both of these films cater towards a very specific audience. While I think Mamma Mia caters towards a very specific audience, The Dark Knight is more of a broad appeal, but they're still different enough for me to consider them the first Barbenheimer.